All right, hey, look, we're getting closer to making a GIS application for Roblox Studio. What you're seeing here is I have a couple of points that I use to define areas on the map, which I got from Google Maps. And I'm looking at this bridge over here in Amsuzart. I'm looking at the Gîte d'Étape Himi Omar Amsuzart, where we are likely to stay. I put the Hotel Jawaharet Suzkurizin, and I put in a little tree garden down here that may be affected by the pollution that we want to study coming from the washing of clothes and dishes and other activities polluting this river. So I've got those 4 sites that I want to put in, and I want to be able to walk the terrain because there is some terrain in Google Maps, but it's not detailed enough to walk around and talk about things. So I've brought it into Roblox Studio, and so there's that bridge. There is actually the center of the map there. I think that's a bit big, so I don't think we really need this. I think I'll just make it smaller. Where's there it is, the scale, and then hit Alt and then scale it down considerably. So, and let me shrink it down to there. And then behind it, as you can see, is the Gîte. So this is definitely too big. There we go. That's a little better. And then I have the place that I said I want to do the tree farm. There's some trees that I started putting in. And there's a car that I put in. That's kind of fun, although it should be on the road. It's off the road. Oh, look at that. I need to make the studs, the move more smooth than that. There we go. So there's a car there. Bingo. All right, and then in the landscape, and a tree. And so then there's the hotel, which I haven't yet put down as a marker, the other one, which is down there. But I was using these to triangulate and figure out how I could scale the markers I want to put in. So now what happens is I have a plugin I've created with the help of ChatGPT. And that plugin shows up now at the top as a local plugin called Spawn Markers. So if I click on that, you see there's the bridge on the river, there's the Gîte d'Étape Himi Omar, there's the river tree farm, and there's the hotel. And it puts in little cubes, and they're not exactly sized or at the right height yet, but that is a basic idea of what we can do with some labels. It creates a village markers folder that then has these actual spots in there. So I can move them around now as objects, or I can change them, which is nice to be able to have markers that you can put on the landscape and edit. So that's a nice function to have a plugin that does that. And I can also erase that and start all over and do it any time because I have the plugin. I also can play the game, and when I play the game, it makes temporary markers. And you can see as I run through, there's Hotel Jawaharit Sus. Of course, it's placed wrong right now. There's the River Tree Farm, somewhere near the original marker. So it's off by a bit, but that's okay. I can live with that because then I can replace them. There's the Gîte, although technically it's supposed to be here, and it's now placed over there. So again, we're not getting the stretch of the landscape perfect, but it's all right, and I can fix that. I can live with that. What this enables me to do then is to keep adding points. So let's say that I wanted to add let's see how big this map is. It's not all that big, but let's say that I wanted to add this building up here. So let me go back to Google Maps, and we're talking about this one here. And we don't have a name on it, but we'll call it Pink Building. I can take the latitude and longitude off of Google Maps and now come into my code. And I have in my code a piece in replicated storage called Village Points. And there it is. And so I'm going to be adding another point here. So what I'll do is I'll temporarily paste that latlon here. I'll copy one of the other villages points. I'll put this in. Now I'm going to call this the pink house, whatever that is, take this latitude and copy it in with its comma, and then take the longitude and copy that in. Make sure I keep the comma, it's critical. And then we don't know that this is a hotel, so the category may be, let's say house. So we put that in, and let's just do one more while we're at it. Let's go down and let's get this Riyadh over here. And so we grab this, and this is Riyadh Dar Am Suzart. So let's go back in and let's paste in. Well, first let's put this in so we have it. Let's take this and copy it and paste it below. Put a space in there and make this Riyadh Dar Suzart. Make sure that we get rid of one of those. Oh, got rid of both of them. Okay. And then let's get our latitude in and our longitude. Okay, looking okay. And then let's save this. And now when we play this, oh, we need to tell this is not a house anymore. This is a Riyadh, whatever it's worth. Okay, bridge, G, Riyadh. So those are there. And then when we hit play, save it again. Now, when we go on the landscape and run, we see that the Riyadh has been placed more or less reliably on the landscape, and the pink house is up here as well. Now, why isn't the pink house showing up? Because it's underground. And so to find it, of course, we would have to hit stop, and then we need to go to our village points and maybe make that pink house elevation. Let's bring it up by 20, and let's see if that saves it. We'll always have to adjust the placement, but let's see. There's the pink house. Okay. So until we can actually build the house in 3D and put it in, we have the ability to add these markers. Now, notice that these markers are not showing up here in the workspace. They are temporary. They disappear until you play it, so there's nothing to edit. So that's why you would have to go in and run our spawn markers plugin if you wanted to create persistent blocks like these. But notice that the two new ones don't show up. Why is that? That's because a plugin uses the last loaded information, and so it's just not going to reflect changes we make to village points. And that's, I don't know if I do save to Roblox and call this village points, this is my collection of village points for our GIS work in Suzart. I still don't think that it is going to, this is model, animation, no it's neither, it's a development item. It doesn't even let me save. If I model, it's not a model though, it's not an animation. I don't know, I guess I could save it as a model. So, but I'm sure that this is not going to play when I spawn the markers. As you can see, it just doesn't do that. It creates a folder, and yet it's only going to have the points that were in there. Now, it will show up if I reload maybe, but so if I close the place and then reload it, it may work. Otherwise, I'd have to reboot completely Roblox Studio. So let's go and check this out. I'll take these out, and I will go to plugins And you don't see that plugin there because it was a local plugin, so I'd always have to go in and take my plugin from Mark Builder plugin, and I'd have to save it as a local plugin and then make it marker spawner. Rewrite that. Now it should show up. There it is. And then when I play it, yes, now all those pink house shows up. And they're actual objects that are in the folder now, which can then be modified, because now that I have that pink house in, it is possible to click on it and hit F to zoom, and then I could start positioning it and then move it onto the landscape and scale it and rotate it and all those good things. This is not rotating because it's there. So rotate it and then scale it and start building a house on the landscape, right? Rotate a little bit more and make it pink. So that can be done too. So there's the pinkish color there. That then persists on the landscape, and I can do that with the other marker as well. I can go to the Riyadh and hit F and zoom in and then move that. I think the Riyadh was actually here. And then scale that up. And of course it's in the landscape like that, and then make that color. So now when you play the game, there's going to be a new marker added in the play mode, but these other markers are in the landscape, so that when we hit play, as you can see, oh, didn't persist. Well, isn't that interesting? That is indeed bizarre. And I cannot account for that because it should be showing up. These are supposed to be persistent. Maybe I have to hit save to Roblox and then go and play. And still nothing. All right, well, I've got to figure out why these are not showing up. You would think that these are real things, and if I were to duplicate this and take this pink house and drop it in the workspace, let's see if that shows up. Did it show up? Yeah, now it shows up. So if it's in the folder, it doesn't show up, but there it is on the landscape. Yay, and we can model that later on. And the same thing would then be true of any of the others. I want to see now if I just take the Riyadh and simply drag it in out of that folder, does it show up? Let's see. Yeah, it does. Okay, so it was really the presence of being in that folder that made it disappear. But we can start populating with different objects. So this is pretty cool that we have these capabilities now, and it's beginning to help us make a GIS program out of Roblox Studio, because then, as you know, you can always go to the models. And I have to stop playing. But if I want to start bringing in the vegetation, or I want to bring in cars and things, yes, then I can go into the creator store, and I can get trees and then find various trees that we think would be appropriate for the area. you know, and realistic tree there. So we can make our landscape come to life and then have discussions about trees. So if we come in here, then we can walk right up to any given tree. And I've got this feature I added where now I can click on a tree and I can say, for example, olive tree 1, and that puts a label on it, but that label is not yet persisting. But I will be able to have, I mean, this could be pomegranate tree, and you can go around and label various objects in the landscape. And of course, then the usual in-game things work, or should work. That's odd. Should be driving. Yeah, car. Sure, but for some reason he's not able to drive. Why is that? Oh, there we go. Okay. Controls. That's the controls. Well, that's weird. It should be playing. So maybe the car is stuck somehow. That can often happen, and if that does happen, then you go and find the car, and let's see how it got stuck on the landscape. The car is here. Let's bring it up in the air a little bit in case it got stuck in the landscape. Zoom in on it. And it's not going up because the move thing is a little too high. So there, the car is now up in the air. So when we hit play, that's weird. Well, normally the car plays. And now the car is not playing. I mean, it usually works. So something's stalling the script. And I cannot account for that. But you don't really need to drive around. We can walk and run, of course, and we can even hit F for fly and fly around the landscape, which is an easier way to get around than using a car anyway. Who doesn't like to fly? All right, so we're getting to the point where we should be able to make a really good playable interactive GIS map for any terrain. That's where we're going. So thanks for watching, and go ahead and do as I do. Go into ChatGPT and start asking how to program in Lua. I've got a bunch of programs in here that you can see. I just want to let you know that, and I'll get rid of these village markers now. Yeah, so got that. I have in here the aMSUSART script, which basically calls the replicated storage folder down here. And in the replicated storage folder, it calls the GIS mapper and the village points. So you can see them there. There's the GIS mapper. That's the one there. This one is the one that enables us to set an origin latitude and longitude, and then a corrective factor for the studs per meter based on how distorted the map was, and an elevation for the baseline, and then an offset, and then it lets us to put in various things in there, bridges, tree farms, the gîte. So we have that one, and then we have village points, and village points is the one that we are able to keep adding to to add more functionality in there off of the GIS map. So that's what the aMSUSART script calls, the village points and the GIS mapper. And it'll print out the number of villages just to test and see, and then it will spawn them. So there's those two in there. There's a flying script in here that lets us fly hitting the F code. There is a run script, and that's for running when you hit the shift key. Then there's a place and label marker script, and that's the one that I was showing you that lets me go up to any object and say car that won't move, for example. Boom. Right, so that's that, and I've got to make a way to make that more persistent. But that's going to be great for doing the atom in in Jannah, in Paradise, in the Garden of Eden, naming things, the tree of knowledge. So, boom. All right, so that's what that script does, and you'll see if you look at that script, it enables us to click on anything. So it has a way of turning every object into an on-click. I think if I hit Control F, on-click, or is it on-click or detect, something like that. Detector, yeah, there it is, click detector. So this little function here enables the existing of future click detector enabled objects, and so it actually attaches to all click detectors, and it also automatically adds click detectors to all objects right there, makes them all clickable. So whatever parts I put in the game, for example, I've got these this new pink house that I put in, and that's automatically labeled pink house. But if I wanted to, if I found out who owned the house, I could now click on it and say that this is, you know, Omar's house, for example, and then we get that label. So there's a lot of great utility built into this program so far, which I'm really happy about. The AmSuzart script is just calling those, as we said. There's a marker builder script that does basically the same thing. So I don't think we actually need this. And what I can do now is, anytime I don't need a script anymore, I can disable that script like that. Now let's see if it still plays. Yeah, that's working fine. And then let's just click on something and say blue marker, whatever we want to say. All right. So really the absolute needed scripts are AmSuzart script. We don't need marker builder. We don't need permanent village. These are all stuff that I was working on that no longer are needed. So it's basically the AmSuzart script, which then calls these two scripts in replicated storage. So that's the master script is the AmSuzart. And you can always tell that it does that because it tells you right here what it's calling for. Village points and GIS mapper. Okay, so that's those two there. And then I have the scripts for flying and placing label markers and the run script. And then I have the plugin, which in order to be useful has to be saved as a local plugin. If I publish it as a plugin, yeah, I can do that. I think it was good when I had a different name for it. So the name that I had when I did local plugin was marker spawner. So I'll give that the same name if I publish it to Roblox and call it marker spawner. Marker spawner plugin. And then say this lets me spawn persistent markers cubes in my workspace for editing later into buildings or trees or other objects as we work on using Roblox Studio for GIS. All right, so we'll save that in there, and then it could be accessed later on. So that's the game so far. And I'm going to go back to working with ChatGPT to figure this out. Let me get rid of this car, by the way. I don't know why the car wasn't working, and that kind of bothers me because it always should work. But that was this car here, or was it? So working cars. It was this one here. It's a Mercedes car. If I drop it in again with its 27 scripts and then hit play, let's see if it'll actually work this time. No. All right, well that is bizarre because it was, oh, it is working, but it crashed. Oh my gosh. Yeah, well that's weird. Wow. Guess that car got flipped out. Maybe it's where I put it. Maybe I should put it higher and move it over. Let's try this. Fell down. Okay, so clearly there's some issue with the script because it's not working. I mean, it looks like it wants to work, but it's not working. Yeah, these things really, normally they do work. So much for that. All right. Catch you later.